You ever wonder how empires were really built? I mean, these massive global projects, we usually think about soldiers, cannons, economics, politics, right? But what if one of the most powerful tools was something we're surrounded by every single day? Culture. So let's dive right into this. We're going to explore that hidden connection between great cultural works and the age of empire, all based on the groundbreaking work of Edward Said.
Okay, to kick things off, check out this idea from the poet T.S. Eliot. He's basically saying that history, it's not just some dusty old book on a shelf. It's not over and done with. No, the past is alive, it's right here with us, and it's shaping our world in ways we probably don't even notice. And that idea, that's the perfect lens to see why the story of empire is far, far from over.
And look, this isn't just some abstract academic thought experiment. This stuff has real-world consequences. Take the Gulf War back in 1991. From the US perspective, it was a mission to defend freedom, to right a wrong. But for Iraq, they saw it through a completely different historical lens, as just another chapter in a long story of imperialism, a chance to push back against wrongs done to Arabs for generations. You've got two totally different views of the past, crashing into each other in a very real, very present conflict. I mean, that's Eliot's point in a nutshell, right?
All right, so when we talk about empire, what's the usual story we hear?
Well, usually, it all comes down to the big, tangible stuff. It's a story about economics, the hunt for profit, markets, resources. It's a story about politics, power moves, competition between nations. And of course, it's a story about military might, armies and cannons, the brute force needed to conquer and control. That's the standard narrative we all know. And it's a compelling story for sure. But this is where EdwardWSaid comes in and says, hold on a second. He argues that this whole explanation is missing something huge. A massive piece of the puzzle is just gone. Culture. That's it. We're talking about the novels people were reading, the art that we're looking at, the ideas and attitudes that were just floating around back home. According to Said, this wasn't just some little sideshow to the main event of empire. No way. It was a central part of the engine that made the whole thing go. Okay, so let's dig into that. How did this engine actually work? Because we're not just talking about art reflecting the times. The argument here is way more radical than that. It's that culture was an active force. It's what made the entire imperial project feel, well, not just possible, but natural, normal, even necessary. So just so we're all on the same page, let's get our terms straight. Imperialism, that's the big idea, right? It's the theory, the attitude, the mindset of a powerful country ruling over a faraway place. Then you have colonialism. That's the result of imperialism. It's the boots-on-the-ground action of actually setting up settlements. So you got the mindset, and then you got the action. Okay, so here's the really crucial part, how this actually works. Said says that culture creates something called a structure of feeling. Think of it like the shared atmosphere of a society, the stuff that just feels like common sense. And back in the age of empire, culture helped build this structure of feeling, where dominating other people didn't feel like a violent, aggressive conquest. Instead, it felt like a duty, a moral obligation to go and rule over people they saw as less advanced.
And you can actually see this exact mindset pop up in classic literature. Take this quote from Charles Dickens, describing the worldview of a character named Mr. Dombey. For him, the entire universe, the sun, the moon, time itself, it all exists just for his company's benefit. Now, yeah, it's written as this big exaggeration of one guy's ego, but it absolutely nails the broader imperial attitude of the time.
Which really makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, how could a person, or an entire society for that matter, get to a place where they genuinely believe the whole world was made for them, that the globe is just their personal project, theirs for the taking? Well, the answer is that kind of attitude doesn't just spring out of nowhere. It was nurtured, it was reinforced, a lot of the time really subtly, by the national culture. It was in the books people were reading, the adventure stories they were imagining, the ideas they were talking about. Culture basically made the whole idea of empire feel comfortable, normal, like home. And the project that this culture was supporting, it wasn't some small-time operation. We are talking about a global expansion on a scale that humanity had literally never seen before. Just look at the numbers for a second. In 1800, Western powers controlled about 35% of the Earth's surface. Okay, fast forward to 1878, and that number jumps to 67%. The speed of this growth was just astonishing. It was accelerating like crazy right up to the peak of the imperial age when World War I kicked off. And by 1914, that number hit a mind-blowing 85%.
I mean, just let that sink in. 85% of the entire planet held by Europe, whether as colonies, protectorates, you name it. And as the source material for this explainer points out, no empire in history, not Rome, not the Great Caliphates, not the Ottomans, was ever this big or this dominant. So the culture of empire, it wasn't just justifying a foreign policy, it was justifying total world domination.
Which brings us right back to where we started, that idea that the past isn't really past. The age of direct, boots-on-the-ground colonial rule might be over, but its legacy, oh, it is all around us. And here's the real takeaway. Even though the flags and the armies have for the most part gone home, Said's argument is that imperialism is still alive and well. In our culture, it keeps shaping our stories, our assumptions, and the way different parts of the world see each other. And a lot of the time, we don't even realize it's happening.
You know, the writer Frantz Fanon absolutely nailed it. He said that just because the flags and police forces leave, it doesn't mean the score is settled. The consequences, economic, political, and especially cultural, they just keep rippling out for generations. And that goes for both sides, the colonizer and the colonized. And so that leaves us with a really fascinating and maybe a pretty challenging question to chew on. If the great art and literature that we love was all tangled up with the imperial project of its time, how should that change the way we look at those stories today? It's a question that kind of invites us to look again with a fresh pair of eyes at the very stories that have shaped our world.